Gameplay Storytime with Max Monster.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. As always, I am your host, Max Monster, here to bring you another Civilization story time. If you did watch the first episode and you enjoyed it, I seriously appreciate it so much, and I'm really glad that you're here for part two. This time, we're going to be going over something that was just a really unfortunate experience that I had had to begin a vacation. So let's dive on into it here. So, back when I was 15 years old, I had just finished my fall semester of high school, and instead of doing Christmas presents for the year, we decided to do a family trip, a family cruise out of Fort Lauderdale, and it was awesome. I mean, the trip as a whole was great, and to be honest, I'm really not much of a materialistic person. So, going and just spending time with the fam and building these lasting memories really meant a lot to me. And I really have learned especially as I've gotten older, that's what I have really appreciated more than any other type of gift is just making those memories. But that's besides the point. Getting back to what this story is about. So, if you haven't been on a cruise before, one of the things that they used to make you do was they used to make you all go to your assigned areas for a safety briefing about if there was any sort of disaster to hit the ship, whether it was capsizing or what it was. You would have to go to where the lifeboats were, where your assigned lifeboats were, and gather to know where to go in case of bad things happening. And it was to put it bluntly, a disaster. For some reason, I don't know why, I was put into a different lifeboat group than my parents. And so I went to this location, mind you, 15-year-old me had never been on a cruise before. And so this was a new experience. And the fact that I was away from my family was a little bit odd. And it feeds into kind of this experience I had a little bit harsher. So when I'm standing there, right, we're packing like sardines. There is just tons of people here. The cruise people supposed to be telling us, the staff that was supposed to be informing us as to what was going on and how to use the lifeboats and what to do in this situation were taking forever to show up. People were getting irritated. People were getting agitated. As you do when you just are on a party boat looking to party, drink, and eat and have a great time. Nobody wants to go through this safety briefing thing. But with that said, I was standing next to this elderly couple. I would say that they were in their 80s, maybe 90s, and they were standing patiently and, just another group of people ready to go have a wonderful time. Well, just as the cruise employee shows up to give us our safety briefing, this elderly woman next to me collapses, completely collapses, just drops to the ground. Uh, and I looked down at her, and so did everybody else, just kind of like blinking rapidly and trying to figure out what the heck's going on. Clearly, she was not okay, but to what extent, I didn't know. Now, this past semester, I was mentioning that I just finished. One of the courses that was available to take as a science in my high school was a first responder course, and I had completed it. I just got my CPR card, my first responder card, and so my first thought is, okay, I need to kind of jump into action here because nobody else is doing anything. And so I dropped down. I checked her pulse. Her eyes were wide open. I knew basically immediately she was gone. But that didn't stop me from trying to do chest compressions and perform CPR on this woman. And so I did for about 30, 40 seconds before some medical staff from the boat showed up and took over. And after that, I was kind of a little bit shook up. They asked me, what was going on. And so I tried to inform them the best I could that she just collapsed. And they took over from there, basically moved everybody away. And the last thing I remember seeing was her being carried away with a sheet draped over her. It was really, really sad. It was really unfortunate. And the worst part about it all, for me, I would say, was actually looking at her husband and just the complete and utter shock he was experiencing. I can't even fathom, going on a trip with my wife just to have her unfortunately pass away before the trip even happens. I mean, who knows how long they were together for or anything like that. I'm not saying this to be a tearjerker or anything, but that's got to be just kind of the worst kind of hell, honestly. Um, but getting back to the point here, that was a pretty crazy experience for being a 15-year-old. It was not the only time somebody had collapsed in front of me on a cruise ship. I'm sure it probably happens all the time, but we were about 2 years ago on another trip, uh, and we were on a little tender that traveled between the boat and an island, and it was hot as hell. I mean, everybody was roasting alive. There was no shade on this dang thing, and we were sitting up there. It must have been solid 102 degrees outside at this part of the Caribbean we were in, and we're all waiting there again, packed in like sardines. And suddenly, this woman that was sitting maybe a couple people down from me on this tender just again collapses to the ground. She was probably in her mid 30s. And so, fortunately, this time I didn't actually have to take that much action when it came to this. There was actually another person who was an EMT that was sitting literally right next to her when it happened, and she ran through all the questions that you're supposed to do. Can you hear me? Do you know your name? And all of that. And they were able to get her some water. But to be honest, the response time on getting her water was a bit shameful. I don't know how they didn't just have plenty supply of it on this little tender here, but when they finally got her taken care of and back upright, things were fine. She was just suffering from dehydration, as were, I'm sure, a lot of people on that boat, because again, it's a cruise ship. You're drinking, you're partying, you're not really worrying about consumption of water or anything like that while you're on the boat. You're just there to have a good time. And yeah, it was just really bizarre that has happened to me. Obviously, the first time was far worse than the second time, but it was just incredibly bizarre that I happened to have two individuals collapse on me on a cruise ship. I mean, I don't know what the odds of that are, but it was odd. It was definitely odd. I hope it doesn't happen again, obviously, but yeah, I just wanted to share that little story with you guys because, I think what I really took away from that experience is when you see something bad happen, when you see something, that is just really unfortunate, and you have the skills or capabilities to be able to jump into action, there's nothing wrong with doing that. And who knows what could happen. Maybe you could save someone's life or help them out of a bad situation, or maybe you won't. But that being said, don't be afraid to take a chance of try to being a hero if you are qualified. That is, I will definitely strongly reiterate that. You got to make sure you're qualified, though. No, but you don't want to hurt somebody worse because you don't know what you're doing, or hurt yourself because you don't know what you're doing. But that's my little take today. Thank you guys for listening to this story. I really appreciate it. We're going to keep going here with our little civilization story time for quite some time here. I think that I'm really happy with how it's been all coming together. If you guys have any questions or any stories that you have had experience weird on a cruise ship or vacation, by all means, comment below. Let me know. I would love to hear your guys' stories too. But until next time, guys, thank you so much for joining me on another Civilization story time. And as you can see in the gameplay here, if you're familiar with Civ, it's been an interesting start. So, all right, guys, we'll see you later and have a good one. Bye.